All right, scholars, we are on cycle 1. You might remember that our lesson objective is to analyze the use of recurring language in the closing of the novel. So as we read, I want you to annotate or make note of any recurring phrases or names, something that is recurring when it happens again and again or occurs multiple times. For each instance of recurrence, I want you to note when we read it before. So on a notebook page, I'd like you to have your sheet look like my whiteboard. So I'd like you to write what and where. We're going to have two sides to this chart. What and where. I'll give you a moment to get that written down. And then let's open up our book and we'll do the first example together. The return of Kicker. There's something right there. Kicker. So I'm going to write Kicker in what? Because that is a name we heard back when Max was in daycare. And hasn't been used much since, or at all since. So I'm going to write what? I'm going to write Kicker. And then where did that show up in our book? Daycare. We know that's the beginning of our book. It happened in daycare. So that's how I want you to be taking notes as we read. Whenever you see a recurrence, something that happened before is happening multiple times, put it down, show me where you saw it before. Follow along with me as I read. The deal is, I'm not supposed to bother anybody at the hospital. Yeah, right, like me being there is gonna screw things up. The way everybody is acting around here, you're supposed to shut up and not do anything but wait, which makes me crazy. So early the next morning, when Grim is still snoring loud enough to rattle the window panes, I get up and sneak out of the house. The way I figure, I can check on Freak and be back in time for breakfast, no harm done. If it doesn't work out like that, to say the least, or it doesn't work out like that, to say the least. So there we see foreshadowing. So he's giving us a hint as to what's coming up next. It doesn't work out like that. He doesn't get back in time for breakfast, no harm done. Let's find out what happens. The sun is just coming over the mill pond, and there's this spooky mist on the water. You can hear all the frogs making a racket under the lily pads, and the mosquitoes sound like bullets whizzing by, and I have to kind of slap and run until I get clear of that smelly old pond. So you can put this in your notes. The smelly old pond, we saw that also back in the 4th of July area, so you can put that in your notes. Moving fast, like the sun is chasing my heels, I'm running down this long, faint shadow of me that stretches out ahead. You can't ever catch up with him. I'm thinking with my feet. Like the rest of me is still asleep. Not that I'm completely alone. There's this one old guy. He's actually out cutting his lawn. He's got these headlights rigged up on his rider mower and he's wearing pajamas too. Like it's normal. Everybody does it. When I get to the hospital, the streetlights are just starting to click off. The lobby is empty and there's nobody at the desk to tell me I can't be visiting patients at the crack of dawn. There are plenty of nurses in the ICU though, and they see me coming. This one woman turns right out from behind the telemetry station and she's got her hand up to her mouth, and I'm pretty sure she's trying to shush me, even though I'm not making any noise. She's not telling me to be quiet though. She's saying, "Oh my God, you must be Maxwell," even though she's never seen me in her life. I go, "Is Kevin back yet?" Oh dear, she says, from page 170. "Is he gonna be okay?" "Oh dear," she says, "oh dear." Now more nurses are coming out of the ICU. One of them is the one I accidentally bumped into yesterday. And when she sees me, she goes, "Better page Dr. Spivak." Kevin was her patient. That's when I notice that some of the nurses are crying and looking at me strange, and all of a sudden, I just go nuts. Just go nuts. I'm saying, "No way, no way." And this nurse is trying to throw a hug on me and I push her away. Here's another recurrence, that hug. You remember how it started out? It was the year of phony hugs. Here's another hug. Now, scholars, I'd like you to think about what is going on here. I want you to make your guess of what happened that is making the nurses act like this and makes Max go crazy. Tell me, shout it out at me. Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Something bad happened to Kevin. Kevin is not okay. I think it's safe to assume that he died last night. Then I'm running down the hall, and it's like I'm Kicker again, ready to just blast anybody who dares touch me, and I have to keep running. I'm skidding around the corners and bumping into walls, and no one can touch me, even if they're brave enough to try. I just keep running and running until I get to these glass doors that say medical research. Where in our book did we see medical research before? Why were Max and Kevin there? Yeah, Kevin was telling him about his quest to become the first bionic man, and he's going to the medical research place every couple months to get fitted. At least that's what he said. The doors are locked and it's dark inside. Behind me, people are shouting to call the guards, and I punch my hand right through the glass and I'm inside, skidding over the broken glass through the dark. And I keep going until I come to this other set of doors. No admittance. That means no one's allowed in. Page 71. No glass this time. They're solid, so I can't punch through. And I'm kicking and slamming into the doors, and that's when the hospital cops catch up with me. A bunch of them jump on me, and I keep going, running around in circles like an accident of nature. There's another one, accident of nature. Put that in your notes. Who does that remind us of? Who was an accident of nature, according to Grimm? Yeah, Kenny Kane, Max's dad. Until I until finally there are so many of them on me, I can't stand up anymore. They're putting handcuffs on my wrists and my ankles, and they're sitting on me and going, well, or we'll have to medicate him. And this one cop says, with what? An elephant gun? That's a big gun that they might use to tranquilize elephants. That's how Dr. Spivak finds me, covered with cops. She's got this worried face leaning down, her eyes are red and blurry, and she's saying, I'm sorry, Maxwell, we did our best. Better let me bandage up that hand, you're bleeding. He believed you, I say. You said you could give him a new body, and he believed you. What are you talking about? The special operation, I say. The bionics unit. Dr. Spivak makes the cops let me up and says she'll be responsible. But they leave the handcuffs on me just in case, and the cop who is talking about needing an elephant gun has this nightstick out and he's ready to bop me if I make a move. Dr. Spivak sighs and says, somebody get me a coffee, please. And then she looks at me and goes, you'd better tell me all about it. So while she's bandaging up my hand, I tell her about how Freakhead's been coming to the medical research lab every few months to get fitted for his new bionic body. And Dr. Spivak's face goes soft, and she nods to herself and says, well, that explains it. It was all a lie, wasn't it? I say. You were just telling him so he wouldn't be scared. You know better than that, Maxwell. You couldn't lie to Kevin. I tried a little fib on him when he was about 7 years old because I didn't think a child could handle the whole truth. And you know what he did? He looked his disease up in a medical dictionary. That's when I know she's telling the truth. Freak in his dictionary. Kevin knew from a very young age that he wasn't going to have a very long life, she says. He knew it was just a matter of time. So he was lying about getting a robot body? Dr. Spivak is shaking her head. I don't think it was a lie, Maxwell, do you? I think he needed something to hope for. So he invented this rather remarkable fantasy you describe. Everybody needs something to hope for. Don't call it a lie. Kevin wasn't a liar. No. I say. But what happened to him really? I could tell you all the medical terminology, she says, but what finally happened is his heart just got too big for his body. There was talk about arresting me for busting up the hospital. The cop with the nightstick was in favor. But finally they released me into the custody of Grim. On the way home, he goes, "Do you want to talk about it?" "Just leave me alone," I say. "You got it." All right, and we are going to pause our reading there and take a look at our question. Um, Throughout this chapter, Max's narration included words and phrases and names that he's used before. Why might that be? And if you're having trouble with this, I want you to think back to when all those things kind of happened. What's related between them? When you're done, move on to cycle 2.